Intel just released their latest quarterly figures, and for the quarter, as predicted, easy beats across the board. The problem here is that guidance for Q1, which Q1 is usually a seasonally weak quarter, it was a miss across the board. But there are some positives, there are some negatives as well, and there are, I would say, more answers than questions this time, which is something good. Still no new CEO announcements or anything like that. At the time of making this video, the stock is up 3.32% after hours. I believe the implied volatility indicated a 10% move. So we'll see what happens tomorrow. Before jumping into this earnings report and a couple of comments that were mentioned during the earnings call, hit all the buttons, like, subscribe, we really appreciate that. We covered Meta, Microsoft already today, some commentary on Micron with regards to, well, the memory market because of DeepSeek and inference and costs coming down. Do you need that many chips, etc., etc.? We cover all of it already on the channel. If you missed those videos, those will be in the top right corners. I would really appreciate your support. We're pushing for that 100,000 subscribers for this year. So if you're new here, hit that subscribe button. It's free. And if you want to support me even further, do check out the links down in the description and in the pinned comment with the top 10 best stocks to buy now, or go to fool.com/couchinvestor. Thank you very much. So I'll start off with a couple of comments from the co-CEOs. The fourth quarter was a positive step forward as we delivered revenue, gross margin, and EPS above guidance. Our renewed focus on strengthening and simplifying our product portfolio, combined with continued progress on our process roadmap, is positioning us to better serve the needs of our customers. And this is something that we've heard MJ say also at CS, focus on products and focus on the customers. As for the CFO and co-CEO, the cost reduction plan we announced last year to improve the trajectory of the company is having an impact. We are fostering a culture of efficiency across the business, while driving towards greater returns on our invested capital and improved profitability. Our Q1 outlook reflects seasonal weakness magnified by macro uncertainties, further inventory digestion, and competitive dynamics. We will remain highly focused on execution to build our progress and unlock value. And so for the quarter, this is basically the main overview. As you can see, I would say I call it a beat across the board. Free cash flow did miss here by, well, quite a big margin, but I'm not that focused on free cash flow just yet. But if we look at Q1 guidance, we got a revenue miss by 5%, gross margin, that's the big worry here. How did we go from, well, 42.1% to then 36% for Q1? That's a miss of 330 basis points. And then EPS expected to be flat, so $0. And so for the quarter, the revenue came in at $14.3 billion, still down 7% year over year, but $500 million above the October outlook. Gross margin better than expected, 42.1%, 2.6 percentage points above outlook, and then EPS of 13 cents, 1 cent above the October outlook. If we look at Intel products, of course, there is the consumer, there is DCAI, and then Next. When you look at the consumer part, it's a very, very good business in my opinion. I mean, could be much better, but still a very good business. $8 billion in revenue, operating margin of 38.1%, and operating income of $3.1 billion. Of course, Q4 is usually a very, very strong quarter for Intel. This should also indicate some good news for AMD. And they also said that they're on track to ship over 100 million cumulative AI PCs by the end of 2025. With regards to DCAI, the data center side of things, it's up quarter over quarter, not by much, $3.4 billion. Operating margin here is coming down quite drastically, 6.9%. Now, MJ did share a couple of things with regards to the data center side, so they're not happy. They're learning from Gaudi. They also said that Falcon Shore is going to be an internal chip only, and they will focus everything that they will learn from it on Jaguar Shores, which would be the full rack scale solution. That would be the full focus. That is what customer wants. And so basically, well, Falcon Shores, you can pull it out of the roadmap. This is only going to be an internal chip only, and the learnings from that will be applied on Jaguar Shores. and that should be the one that will be highly competitive, according to them. They did also say that Panther Lake is still on track for production in the second half of 2025. In 2026, volume ramp of Panther Lake will happen. They will also launch Nova Lake. And with Nova Lake, they did say at the end of the earnings call that the die will be from inside and outside as well. With regards to the use of outside foundries, they said that future data center products could be made by outsiders if it makes sense. And that's very interesting because in the latest live stream that I had with Jose, we talked about that. We talked about the fact that, does it bother me? No, it doesn't, because if they use TSMC and it makes sense for them, that means that they think the product could be highly competitive and they're out there to take market share. Of course, it would be great if all the products are made inside of Intel, but if it makes sense for them to still be using TSMC and make sure that the products come out with the best of the best technologies and actually can challenge the other competitors, then I'm all for it, which means that they can go back and take some market share that they lost or, well, that they never had beforehand. So that's good to know. Then with regards to Intel Foundry, as expected, huge improvement when you look at the operating losses compared to last quarter and even compared to some quarters before that. They said that Intel A volume production is still on track for the second half of the year. Financial improvements in 2025 as EUV ramps up. So we should expect Intel Foundry improving the margin mix throughout the year, and they still expect to be break even by 2027. And I'm not 100% sure I heard it correctly. This is something I will have to double check when I have the transcript. But I do think that they said that they are looking for strategic partnerships for Intel Foundry, actively looking. That's what I heard. So we'll see what happens with that. With regards to the server products, that is Clearwater. That's the next one. The planned launch is still for the first half of 2026. And all in all, I know we've talked about Foundry spin-offs and all of that. They will sell it. I don't think they will sell it. They will look for partnerships. They're still focused on making sure that this becomes a world-class Foundry business. That was also something I really like to hear during the earnings call. Let's have a look at a couple of extra things. Also, by next quarter, we probably will see Altera be sold fully, I would say. The whole stake in Altera, in Mobileye, I think the majority of those stakes there will be sold in the next couple of quarters. But by next quarter, I think Altera will be completely gone. That's the message I got from the earnings call. Then looking for outlook, as we've seen before, it was a miss across the board, seasonally weak one as well. With regards to margin, they did say that, well, Intel products as a whole, gross margins for that will be under pressure this year because of Lunar Lake, but Panther Lake will have a much better cost structure. And like I said before, the improvements in Intel Foundry should also start to help the overall margin profile of the business. 18A is again the full focus of this year. So revenue for Q1, $11.7 to $12.7 billion, gross margins 36%, and EPS basically at 0. I also think that they started the call by saying that 7 out of 10 PCs, maybe it's AI PCs, are powered by Intel. So yeah, despite the stock being down 50+% year on year, Intel overall, the company is still extremely important and big. They also touch on the political side of things. They're going to meet with the new administration, talk about how they can make sure that, well, they bring leadership and grow in the United States. Well, Intel never really left the United States, so to continue to stay there and be quite powerful and actually maybe have a comeback. So that's also nice to hear. All in all, I'm not surprised by this quarter. Maybe guidance, I was expecting a little bit more. We have some unanswered question. Of course, the big one is the next CEO. And I know some people are still surprised that still they have no CEO. But bear in mind that Pat leaving came out of nowhere. So I much rather them not rush to find a new CEO. I much rather them take the time to actually find the correct guy to come in, because we're talking about Intel here. The comeback can be extremely big. I mean, I'll take the example of IBM, right? IBM a couple of years ago, everybody was saying, oh, this is a company dead in the water. Well, as we've seen with the earnings, I believe, yesterday, companies not that in the water at all. So comebacks do exist, especially when these types of companies are of extreme importance and, well, the business is still a good one. Execution is key, of course, with Intel, but now with their use of EUV, their new machines from ASML, focus on the Foundry being, well, pulled apart from the Intel products business. The Foundry has their own P&L, so they have to focus on the cost and the profitability profile, which makes sense. Now it's all about execution, making sure that they create the right products for the right customers and at the right price, margin profiles, and all of that. Unfortunately, I did not hear anything about the GPU business, which is, I don't know why nobody asked about that. But okay, I guess if there's no comment, then maybe it's just too small to mention. I don't know. But all in all, I still hold my position and I will probably add tomorrow or in the next couple of days. I did not add previously under 20 because I was waiting for this earnings report. Good enough information, so I'll increase. Yes, my bag will become a bit bigger, but I think it was fine. So all in all, that's about it. Should be very interesting to hear what AMD will have to say next week. So stay tuned for that, like, subscribe, all of that, and I see you all in the next one. Bye-bye.